This is an Indian 100 rupee note, and every single day in India, millions of these notes change hands. We use it to buy everything from vegetables to mobile phones. Indeed, this note is even accepted as legal tender in some neighboring countries. We put them in our wallets and our purses, and we rarely give it a second glance despite its rather striking lilac color. What we should actually look at is the reverse of the note. And look at this image over here. This image is of the Rani Ki Vav, literally the Queen's stepwell, located outside the small town of Patan in Gujarat, about 2 hours drive north of Ahmedabad. In October 2019, I was fortunate enough to visit this site. And believe me when I tell you, the image on the note cannot convey just how spectacular this site is. Even in a country full of amazing ancient and medieval sculptures and architecture, the Rani Ki Vav is beyond compare. Welcome to another episode of Excuse the Beard, and today we will delve into some Indian history about the Rani Ki Vav. In October 2019, I had travelled around central Gujarat, discovering some of the more amazing pieces of art and architecture and sculpture from ancient and medieval times in that region. This was part of that year's Great India Drive organized by Hyundai India. We had been flagged off from the Statue of Unity at Kevadia, which itself is a tremendous monument to 21st century India. The Rani Ki Vav, on the other hand, is a tremendous monument to medieval Indian engineering, and it is for good reason that it is recognized as a World Heritage Site by the UNESCO, one of 3 such sites in the state of Gujarat, alongside the ancient city of Champaner, Pavagadh near Baroda, and the historic old city of Ahmedabad. The story of the Rani Ki Vav is a very interesting one and deserves to be told because more than anything else, it survived. It survived multiple invasions, centuries of colonialism without being destroyed or plundered. It managed to survive because it was buried under the earth for centuries. Even the British archaeologists and travellers who first came upon this mound that they found in Patan thought it was a small well with some religious iconography. The true extent of the site was never really known even after the state of Baroda carried out initial excavations in the 1940s. Only when the Archaeological Survey of India carried out excavations in the 1980s did the true extent of the Rani Ki Vav come to light. After that, the ASI not only excavated the entire site, it also started carrying out very scientific restoration of the site. The stepwell, which is called a Vav in Gujarat or a Bauli or Bauli in northern India, is a staple of medieval architecture across the water-parched northern and western parts of India. Famous stepwells like the Chand Ki Bauli, used as a backdrop in Hollywood and Bollywood movies, and Delhi's Agra Sen Ki Bauli, located in the heart of the capital, as well as the Adalat stepwell located just outside Ahmedabad, are major tourist hotspots. Stepwells forms a relatively easy way for deep excavation and access to water. And many stepwells, including the Rani Ki Vav, have very strong Hindu religious motifs because the water sort of dovetailed into religion in this very dry part of India. The town of Patan today is more famous for its patoli saris, and these saris sell for many lakhs of rupees. But some of the designs used in these patoli saris are actually from carvings made first at the Rani Ki Vav in many of the columns and beams that support the structure. The story of the Vav is a very long one. According to the historical text Prabhananda Chintamani by the Jain monk Merutunga, written in 1304, the stepwell was built by Udayamati, the queen consort of the Chaulukya ruler Bhima I, and construction began in 1032. It was only commissioned after Bhima I's death by his son Karna. Bhima I was a prolific builder. He also built the fantastic Modera Surya Mandir just a few kilometers away from the Rani Ki Vav. And many suspect his building prowess was because of the guilt he suffered for the sacking of the Somnath temple early in his reign by the barbarian Mahmud of Ghazni. Many of the sculptures and the magnificence of the site is not really visible from the parking lot. Indeed, from the parking lot, the first thing you notice are the very well nicely manicured lawns, and you also realize that despite being a World Heritage Site, the Rani Ki Vav isn't really on the tourist map. Even before the pandemic, very few people visit the site. Only when you get to the site do you realize the enormity of it. It is one of the deepest wells in India, going down almost 100 feet, 7 levels. And then when you start walking down, going to the deeper parts of the well that were covered in by silt, do you realize the magnificence of the site, seeing some of the sculptures of gods and goddesses done in great detail by the amazing sculptors of Gujarat. Even in a country like India, where breathtaking ancient and medieval structures are plentiful, the sheer scale of the Rani Ki Vav is stunning. Many parts of the site are still inaccessible with barriers and guards armed with whistles, preventing access. That is because it is not structurally sound to visit some of the sites, and the water at the bottom of the well is supposed to be unpotable and maybe even poisonous. The pillars, columns and beams are ornately decorated with carvings, so as I said earlier, many of which are used in the design of patoli saris, and the niches have lots and lots of sculptures of gods and goddesses from across the Hindu pantheon, and even motifs from secular life, very often displayed by the Apsara standing next to the gods and goddesses. There are over 500 primary structures located in the niches in the wall. Although many niches, particularly the higher levels that were exposed to the elements, have not survived the vagaries of time. Many of the sculptures are dedicated to Vishnu and his various forms, including Vaman and Varaha, forms that are not very common nowadays. There are also many sculptures of Shiva in many of his forms, including with Parvati and including Bhairava. Also a very notable sculpture of the warrior goddess Durga in a Mahisasur Mardini form, where she is slaying the Asura Mahisasur. This is a form of Durga worshipped primarily in Bengal today, and it is quite unique to see this form on the other side of the country. Durga was heavily worshipped all across India back then. Many suspect the main reason this site survived is because it was buried under silt when the nearby Saraswati River flooded. Some have even postulated that locals, fearing invasion by ungodly barbarians, deliberately flooded the site, burying it under tons of silt and inadvertently protecting it for their modern descendants. The 100 rupee note in your wallet or purse might well get used the next time you visit the market or order in some food. But do take a look at the reverse of the note the next time you can. And once this pandemic is over and you can travel again, make it a point to go visit the Rani Ki Vav. It really is a remarkable piece of architecture and sculpture in India. And it is a place you must visit if you want to know the history of this country. Do subscribe to Excuse the Beard for more such interesting content from across India on a variety of topics that interest me, including automotive and aviation and history. I hope these topics interest you too.